I have a confession to make. I am 58 years of age, and all of my life I've struggled with anxiety. It started when I was very young. I was brought up in a very small hamlet with 3 farms and about 25 people in the hamlet. And each day I would see, I suppose, mum and dad, my sister, and maybe two or three other people, maybe the postman, perhaps a baker or a greengrocer, and then one of the local farmers might drive by. But you'd hardly see anyone to speak to. Life was very quiet. I'm very happy as a young lad and loved the farm so much and loved helping my dad, probably getting in the way, but loved it out on the farm with all the animals. And then, when I was 4.5, of course, I had to go to school. And suddenly being thrust into a group of 35 children just wasn't my scene. And there's a few things that happened there that stick in my mind from when I was very young. In the first year in school, someone who was older than me started teasing me. And I punched him in the mouth. And I must have punched him really hard because his teeth were bleeding, he was crying, he was really upset. Now, actually, I didn't get into trouble. I want you to know I never ever punched anyone after that. I think it frightened me. And then when I was 6, in PE, I fell off a high climbing frame or climbing bars, really winded myself, hurt my back. And of course, you get home, you tell your mum and all that. Well, when mum saw the teacher lied. The teacher said that didn't happen in PE, it happened in break time on the school field. And that basically it was nothing to do with her. And of course, who was believed? The teacher was believed. When I was 7, I started getting bullied. I was very shy, you see, very quiet. And this lad started to give me Chinese burns every day. He'd take my crisp and made school even more miserable than ever. I hated school from that day on, right the way through. Even when I started to get good at things, I hated it. And, I can remember the anxiety that I felt in going to school. And in particular, I loved the summer holidays, 6, 7 weeks away from school, on the farm, helping out. But, when it got back to the last week, the butterflies started to come up, started to churn inside, wouldn't sleep. The real deep anxiety about going back to school. And the anxiety stayed with me. I got 16, 17, and it was more then about death. I was terrified of death. I was terrified of serious illness. And I don't think anyone knew this, but it was all going on inside, all this stuff churning around. I've never actually watched a horror film. I never want to, because it would feed, I think, into that anxiety and fear. And then when I was 17, and strangely, I never felt anxious driving a car. I used to drive too fast. That's why I had an accident. And through the accident, I actually became a Christian, gave my life to Jesus, realized that I was in a mess, and my life changed. God had been calling me for a few years, and finally I responded, and He came into my life and changed me. And the fear of death went. No anxiety over death anymore, or sort of serious illness. But yet it remained in all the other areas. And I want you to know, because probably all of you watching this today have experienced a measure of anxiety over the past weeks, and indeed you will over the weeks ahead. And I want you to know that does not mean that you're sinning. It does not mean that you have a lack of faith. It's part of our humanity. For me, it's a deep weakness. But for all of us, it is something that we at times have to cope with. And I don't know if you knew, but Jesus suffered from anxiety. I mean, I'm releasing this on Good Friday. And, if you think of Good Friday, you think of Jesus giving his life on the cross and how wonderful it was, his great love for us, that he did that for us. But think back to the night before, to the Thursday night, and you find him in the Garden of Gethsemane, and you find him there in prayer to his Father, saying, Father, if only this cup could be taken from me. Couldn't there be another way? In fact, it tells us in the Bible that he was in such anguish that his sweat was like drops of blood. To his disciples, he said, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. He was desperate. And I guess it's a two-edged sword here, because as God, he knew what was going to happen the next day. You know, very often we don't know when bad things are going to happen to us. We don't know what the future holds. Jesus knew exactly what he was going to go through. He knew that he was going to suffer physically. He knew that he was going to suffer spiritually, mentally, emotionally, in every way. And, you know, we can't imagine what he went through. But on that Thursday night, the anxiety, all the things that we would face and experience, he experienced. And somehow he hung in there. And the next day, because he loved you and he loved me, he gave his life on that cross so that we could be set free. And two things he said on that cross that I want to highlight today. One, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He offered forgiveness to those who hammered the nails in his hands. He offers the same forgiveness for you and I. And the other thing that I want to remind you of what he said was, he said, it is finished. And that was not a cry of defeat. It was a cry of victory. It was a cry that I've finished the work. I have done what you've asked me to do, Father. I've come here and I've given my life, the ultimate sacrifice, that mankind could be set free, that mankind could have victory over death. That victory depended on one thing. Last time I quoted a verse from the Bible where St. John, who was Jesus' best friend, he said this of Jesus, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Do you want everlasting life? Well, you got to believe in him. You got to follow him. And following him doesn't mean, just to let you know, that you'll be free from anxiety. You know, I've been following him most of my life. Now, you know, do I get it right always? No. Get it wrong sometimes, mess up sometimes. But the anxiety has still been there. And it's almost like, I think, somewhere in the Bible, I think St. Paul said that when I'm weak, I'm strong, and that God works in our weaknesses. It's almost like sometimes he allows that weakness that we might rely on him. And boy, have I had to rely on him in my life. So we see here Jesus also suffering. And maybe you, with what's going on in the world right now, amongst friends, amongst people that we know. So sad. So I want to leave you some thoughts about how we can cope with anxiety. You know, how can we get through? How can we get through the next few weeks? How am I going to get through the next few weeks? You know, we got to go to sleep sometimes. We got to, you know, somehow get through. Well, first of all, for me to relax, and relaxing is important, right? You got to, even in an anxious state, get to a point of relaxing, switching off. Well, for me, the first thing that helps is actually to know the facts. I need to know what's going on in the world. So I need to know what's happening with the coronavirus. I need to know how our country is coping. But once I know the facts, then I need to switch off a bit from it, because, you know, you can be so engrossed in it and you can feed on, if you like, the negative all day long, and it'll drag you down. So yes, know what's going on. Look at the news. Check it out each day. But then you got to put something positive also into your heart and life. And for me, Bible verses can help. One that has really helped me to cope with anxiety is this. And it actually, I'm going to quote the reference on this, because it's 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love and of power and of soundness of mind. You know, that speaks right into my heart and life, right into the center of my better life, life feeling. For God has not given me a spirit of fear, but of love and of power and soundness of mind. And you know, I hang on to that. When I'm struggling, I hang on to what He has said. There's a few other things we do. You know, we need to talk to people. We need to talk to someone. Now, right, not everyone will understand. You know what? Very often I'll talk to my wife, and Sharon knows me so well, of course. She understands my struggle with anxiety, and so I'll share what I'm anxious about, and she'll relay it back to me. And it comes back in such a way. She's got this brilliant way of turning it into, to almost to make in a funny way. And it makes me laugh at myself. Yeah, am I really worried about that? And so talking about it, but she just got an art of doing that, and it makes me laugh. So sharing with the right person who is understanding can make a difference. But actually laughing and singing can help. Sometimes we've got to do something to help us out of the misery that we get into. You know, exercise can help as well. There was one time in suffering with this anxiety when I lost my voice for 3 weeks. That's a long time, you know. Couldn't speak, and I have to write everything down. It's horrible. But you know, after my recovery from that, I was taught some exercises, you know, and particularly for my neck, you know. So like, you know, exercises like this and like this. And you know, I find you can find actually when you do those exercises, you find the tension here. And you know, it's important if you struggle with anxiety, then do some neck exercises or any exercise. It will help you. It will make a difference in your life. Take one day at a time. That's important too. See, most of the things that I worry about are too far ahead. There's enough in each day. And remind yourself of the things that you worried about that God actually got you through. You know, I do that sometimes. Oh, God, you got me through that. You know, you got me through that speaking engagement. You know, you got me through that situation at work. He makes a difference. Replace worry with prayer. And this is important. Tell God about it. Tell him about whatever it is. You know, see, so often we feel guilty for feeling anxious, and that hinders us from getting close to God. But you know, if we were to just go to him and say, Lord, look, this is how I am. This is where I am. Will you help me? I want you to know he will. And you know, he wants us to know his presence. And if Easter weekend tells us anything, that's what it's all about. Jesus came down to set us free from rebellion, and then he rose again that we might have a relationship with him and with his Father, and one that would go on forever. He loves us. He wants to be with us. He wants to help us. I'm going to finish with another Bible verse. Lots of Bible verses today, but it helps. Right? And this is this. Come to me, all you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Come to him. Keep praying, keep loving, and keep safe. God bless you all. Martin, yes? You still wearing that same shirt? Yes, I said I would because it brings hope. It's stinking. What do you mean it's stinking? You've been wearing it for 3 weeks. It's time you changed it. No, I said I'm going to wear it every day. Well, if you don't change it, I'm not going to sit with you anymore. What, you don't even want a cup of tea with me? No, thank you.